This is a narration of bitter agony undergone by Yaron Bartzlevsky in Gaza Strip. An IDF soldier's cry from Jerusalem. Gaza Strip. In a dim room with a thin mattress and a flickering TV, a young face fills the frame. He speaks in bursts, breath ragged, words tumbling over pain. "My name is Yaron Bartzlevsky," he says. "I'm 22, an Israeli Defense Force soldier from Jerusalem." Then the confession lands like a stone. He has been suffering like this for 2 years. He calls it Gideon's pain, a phrase that seems to gather all his wounds into one. He points to his head, feet, and hands, raw, bandaged, and aching. He says he cannot stand long enough to reach the bathroom. Sleep won't come. Food rarely does. "I can't live like this," he says, voice cracking. "You have to get me out of here. You have to stop what you're doing." Yaron is an IDF soldier stationed inside the Gaza Strip. What he describes is not a battle report, it is a ledger of deprivation. He remembers when rations were meager yet predictable. Now, he says, they are gone. Before, they gave me a little. Today there is nothing. He describes surviving on less than a quart of water in a day, stretched across hours that blur into each other. 3 kernels, he says, holding up his fingers. "That's what I ate today. Yesterday, maybe a plate of rice. Maybe." He repeats the same sentence 3 ways, as if repetition could make the food appear. There's no food here. The food doesn't exist. The food isn't here. On the TV, images of hungry children flash past. He says he is made to watch. Bones under skin. Faces too tired to cry. He stares at the screen and then at the camera. "This is abuse of innocence," he says. "It's a crime." The words are not polished. They are peeled from the edge of exhaustion. His anger is scattershot, raw, sometimes contradictory. He lashes out at the minister's soldiers, spits a profanity, then pivots to gratitude for the same uniform that once kept him alive. "I was so close to dying," he admits. "If not for soldiers here, I would be dead." He blames leaders by name, says the disease is not in his body alone but in man, and calls out Netanyahu in a breath that sounds part accusation, part plea. The camera does not flinch when he doesn't. He shows wounds on his hands, swollen and split. He talks about 4 months of physical and mental torture, the kind that turns time to paste. "All day I hold my gaze," he says, on the ceiling, on the door, on the place he hopes a meal will appear. He lies on a mattress for 24 hours, barely moving, on the verge of death, and insists others are like him. Soldiers, detainees, the anonymous men on neighboring cots. "We live in misery," he says. "I'm sure everyone is in the same state, mental and physical." There was a time, he says, when the Saraya soldiers, a unit he mentions, would answer when he asked for help. They would help me with what I needed. Now he says humanity has run out. He repeats it, as if trying to hear a different answer the second time. Their humanity is over. Your humanity is over. Then comes the plea that threads through every minute of his testimony. Bring back humanity. Bring water. Bring food. I'm not asking for anything else. At moments his despair pitches into fevered speech, thoughts tangled by hunger and pain. He says shocking things he cannot mean, ideas that sound like a mind pushed past the edge. As reporters, we will not repeat those words here. What matters is the temperature of his suffering and the way it distorts judgment, turning a young man into a portrait of a war's hidden cost. He speaks directly to the lens, as if it were a person with keys and authority. "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" The question is addressed to anyone who might be listening. Commanders, gatekeepers, quartermasters, the nameless, every desperate person imagines when the door won't open. "Allow aides to enter Gaza Strip," he begs. He isn't bargaining. He isn't threatening. He is begging. Between lines about rations and wounds, he returns to the TV. They let me see children dying of hunger, he says. He describes bones in the eyes, an image that doesn't make literal sense but lands with a terrible clarity. He is seeing what no one should have to see, while his own stomach hollows out. The moral dissonance rips at him. This doesn't make sense, he says. Stop this. Stop this hell. Stop this suffering. Yaron Bartzlevsky recounts 2 years of decline and 4 months of concentrated torment. He describes holding his body together the way a person might hold a door shut in a storm. Shoulders trembling, breath shallow, muscles braced against an invisible weight. He cannot sleep. He cannot walk without fire in his feet. He cannot stand long enough to do the simplest things alone. He is 22, and he talks like a man decades older, crushed by a season he cannot outlast. What is verifiable? What is contested? What belongs to one soldier's account? These questions always shadow testimonies like his. But the detail in his story, the repetition of numbers, a quart, 3 kernels, 24 hours, the staccato rhythm of a man who has measured his day in sips and seconds, these are hard to stage. They ring of truth, or at least of a truth. This is how it feels to be hungry, injured, and unseen. He does not ask for politics to justify him. He does not draw maps or cite orders. He does not debate law. He narrows the whole war to one demand: food and water. He says it softly sometimes, then louder. He says it for himself and for everyone like me. He says it so many times you begin to hear the absence as a sound. In the background, the TV shows footage no broadcast should have to show. In the foreground, a young man asks to be let out. Out of the room, out of the pain, out of a wilderness, he says, has been brought upon them. The word wilderness feels chosen. It carries both the physical emptiness of bare shelves and the moral emptiness he believes has taken root around him. He keeps circling back to humanity, not as an ideal, but as a practical habit that used to exist and, he insists, can exist again. Bring back humanity to the way it was, he says. The sentence is simple. It is also an indictment. There is a line in his testimony that stops the room. He looks into the camera and says, "Please, bring food before I die." No metaphor. No rhetoric. A deadline. He has measured his life in water caps and mouthfuls, and he has done the math. The body sets its own calendar. The hours are nearly spent. This is Yaron Bartzlevsky, 22, from Jerusalem, speaking from inside Gaza. His story will be argued over, parsed, challenged, defended. Some will question his claims. Others will say his words barely scratch the surface of what is happening on both sides of the line. But for 10 aching minutes, the labels fall away: soldier, enemy, ally, other, and a human being asks for bread and mercy. Near the end of the recording, his voice thins. He apologizes for nothing. He takes nothing back. He simply asks again, "Put the food in for us. Please. I beg." Then he lowers the phone. The picture tilts. The room returns to silence, the kind that swallows a young man's plea unless someone, somewhere, decides to answer it.